this year was the first year I started to get a little bit more public about some of my personal mission in life.
June 18, 2064. You're going to be 77 years old. What would be success for you at that age? What's your legacy? Did you win or not?
We probably have done some significant good in the world. All of the things I've been focused on up until this point was generate as much wealth as possible, create as many jobs as possible. But the why behind all of that is so that I could affect the world. Right? Like, I've already hit the I win button in life, but like, that's not enough. It's just simply insufficient. And all I can think of is all this wealth that MAG generates needs to change the world. It needs to like start doing something of value. I feel more pressure now than I did prior to doing all of this to change the world for a better place.
500 plus employees. Wouldn't you say you're already changing the world? How you doing?
It's a relaxy taxi Tuesday. Go to the Bahamas next week.
Don't jinx it. You've taught me that. Never say it's a good day.
Well, it's never as bad as you think it is, and it's never as good as you think it is, right? It's all about leveling out that marathon so you don't have the extremes on the left and the right.
Yeah. I've known you for 3.5 years, and in reality, it seems that I've known you for 30 years.
Well, I mean, you've slept in my bed before, so there's that. Not together, but you have slept in my bed.
I have. But it's, I guess, just the agency dog life years that make everything seem more, I guess.
You've had dreams of my house, the flames that surround it. So yes, I think we're kindred spirits. And the way we found each other, I mean, it was crazy. You won a coaching call off of a quiz question I did on a webinar.
All right, so yep. Francisco, how would you like to use your free coaching session that you won from the AMZ Scout webinar?
So this is not going to be your typical coaching session. You'll see.
Yep.
And then we get on the call and then we figure out maybe we should work together.
Let's interview you for that. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, I'm ready to go, man.
Perfect. That sounds like a plan. I'll get that link over to you shortly. Okay, I got to run. We'll have a good one.
It's a wonderful way to meet.
That was seems like so many years ago. But anyway, so one thing I've got to know you is you're always driven for action. And by that, I mean, you're not entertained by what happened yesterday or a month ago or a year ago. So you're always looking forward. You're always pushing for the next big thing or what the future looks like. So
we could have had a record sales day yesterday and it wouldn't matter. Today, if we don't bust that record again, doesn't matter.
That's my point. So
no time to celebrate. Must continue, grow at all costs.
And that mindset has trickled down. I wasn't like that. You've turned me into that. My CI proves it. But you instill that in the company. So that's my comment number one. Number two, you may not think of yourself as one, but you're a photographer. You know that, right? You appreciate photography. You're always giving tips to everyone, not just
your wife, who is actually a photographer. I give her tips too. You can imagine how that goes down.
Man,
poor all about the angle. You got to get the angle right? Like the context,
the angle, the lighting, composition.
Then you got to get the medium shot. And then you got to get the frame. Then you got to get the wide, which shows you like the presentation and the context.
So you are essentially you're a photographer.
I'm going to concede that right off the bat, especially after I just did this.
Correct. And not only that, but a videographer as well. A year ago, and we were dangling 100 meters up in the air, and the only concern you had in your mind was, Fran, get a better shot.
You didn't have me in shot. You were like,
dude,
focusing down to try not to fall off this cliff when you're bicycling across the cavern.
I was concerned about my life, and you were concerned about the shot. That was how.
Well, you think I would be bicycling over a canyon just for fun? I mean, come on now. Got to get the shot, otherwise it's like, what's the point? We got to do it again.
We established those three things. So you like to think ahead. You're a photographer and you're a videographer. So I want to do a quick exercise today. Do you remember Kodak film company?
I do.
All right. So
and they did not want to evolve. They only wanted to get bigger.
They were not looking to the future. So let's do 3 Kodak moments that you share everything your LinkedIn page, you share everything social media. So let's do 3 Kodak moments in the future. And I'm going to tell you when. And
Before you do that, the share everything thing, I've done that my whole life. I just want to point this out. So when I was a kid, I would share so much stuff my parents wouldn't ask me questions. I'm telling you, this is a real strat. Like if you want to like overwhelm your parents with information, they don't ask questions anymore. They're like, okay, Steve, we're good. We're good. Please stop. But all right, Kodak, let's go.
No. But you know what? That makes perfect sense because you build trust, and that is essentially what we do at Mac with our clients.
Pirates of the Caribbean trust style. You know, like the first movie where Johnny Depp's like, you can never trust an honest man because that one time.
But you know what? Makes perfect sense because that's what we do at the company. That's how we manage our teams, by trust, and makes perfect sense. So anyway.
Consistent communications is a core value I've lived my whole life. And like that's why I made that as a core value. I mean, I used to call it strategic communication, but in reality, it's consistent.
And true communication, because you can be consistent, but if you're saying stuff that doesn't matter or lies or whatever.
That's why the Spock candor comment comes in. Can I even do it right? Yeah, there we go.
There you go.
Gotta have. I'm not actually a Trekkie. I just like to steal the metaphor.
That's a good one. Yeah.
But the candor one is a good one, right?
Candor.
Like how do you balance soft on the people, tough on the issues, and candor? It's kind of a 2-to-1 ratio for a reason, but
everything there revolves around trust. So I'll give you that for sure. All right, so we're gonna do 3 Kodak moments. And I'm going to ask you a few questions for each moment, and you tell me what's in your mind. All right? What does that?
We're going to have to rebrand this to Pixel Moments because Kodak does not exist anymore.
Come on, let's do a little bit of nostalgia. A little bit of nostalgia. All right? June 18, 2029. That's 5 years from now. All right? What's the post about? What's the pic about? Who are you with? What's going on?
Wow, looking into the future like this and putting something on tape so that I look backwards to see like how ridiculous the prediction was. That's some pressure right there. But for sure, the company is well past 1,000 employees by this point. We might even be 2,000 or 3,000. We're currently the largest Amazon independently owned agency in the world. The question might then be, could we become the largest, period? That's possible. We probably have done some significant good in the world, right? So this year is the first year I started to get a little bit more public about some of my personal mission in life. All of the things I've been focused on up until this point was generate as much wealth as possible, create as many jobs as possible. But the why behind all of that is so that I could affect the world. I knew from a very young age in my life that I wanted to have something that would last 1,000 years, right? Like generate, not just like 1 or 2 generations. And so how can we effectively be a change agent in the world? How can we save kids? How can we protect our children? How can we protect the family unit? And so those are the things I'm going to probably have some wins on the board 5 years from now. But today they feel nebulous. Like they're not tangible today. Like I don't know. I could go donate to a charity and, I could sponsor a particular event and I could give a truckload of toys away, but like those things are, tactical in nature. And I want to do something that would last 1,000 years. So like, how do you go from nebulous, like want to impact the world for 1,000 years to actually doing it? And I don't have an answer to that today. I really don't. But in terms of my Amazon guide, I mean, we're going to go upstream. We're going to hit the mid-market enterprise. We're going to be the #1 stop and shop for everything as it relates to an Amazon seller. We may even become one of the largest e-commerce agencies as we try and go outside of Amazon as well. That will be one of the most difficult things that we attempt. Yeah. But going into, Google, Facebook, TikTok, we dabble in some of these. We've got Walmart guy. We've got my agency guy. We've got all of these different things that we dabble in, but we're not 10 out of 10 like we are in Amazon today. So becoming larger and evolving at the same time is something that's very important to me because, some companies can just get bigger like a Kodak, and then they eventually go belly up because they didn't evolve.
Mhm.
Other companies just try and evolve and they don't get bigger. And you may not even be able to name some of those companies because they're so small or whatnot.
Mhm.
I want to do both. And the difficulty behind doing both is excruciatingly difficult, right? Like it's the amount of work that requires. You have to rebuild the plane while you fly it and do an oil change and switch the plane. And, you know, at the same time, you're flying some helicopters on the side.
While you're chewing glass and staring into the abyss, right?
And chewing glass while driving through a hurricane. There you go. Now we got the whole flight plan spelled out here.
All right, but I heard a lot of stuff. What's the post about 5 years from now? Who are you with? What are you doing? June 18, 2029.
I personally hope that we have started some sort of process of rescuing kids from pedophile rings, right? Like Underground Railroad style, and that like the profits from my Amazon guy are now being put into a systemic solution to the perversion of the world, right? So like I know you're trying to get me to pinpoint me on MAG, and all I can think of is all this wealth that MAG generates needs to change the world. It needs to like start doing something of value, right? And that's where my head is starting to pivot towards.
Wouldn't you say you're already changing the world? Maybe not in the way you're thinking about right now where you're focused, but 500 plus employees. How many stories you've heard of people that, well, even myself, you know, my story, being part of my Amazon guy has changed my life. And that's just one example out of 500 and so. Is
Talk
that
a little bit about that though? Like express how MAG changed your life, because your story is the norm at our company.
Oh, yeah, sure. I'm 41. I'm going to be 42 in a couple of weeks. Up until 2019, I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. Had some good success with one company that I was part of, and the other 5 companies were a total failure, right? Learning experience, however you want to call it.
Good learning experience.
Good
So
learning experience.
you started at MAG as an Amazon specialist. Today you are the vice president of brand management, in charge of roughly 400 of our 540 employees.
That's right.
But how did that change your life?
Oh, it changed me, it changed my family, it changed my perspective on what I could do. That's why I've been able to grow at the company. You've shown me ways of doing things that I didn't know how to do them before or wouldn't even imagine. And you show me how I could improve on myself. So it's just about getting confidence. When I joined MAG, my confidence was not there.
I live in Mexico, and I've noticed that we are light years behind in Amazon stuff, but I'm seeing an opportunity that really excites me and interests me a lot. So I know you pivoted your career a couple of years ago, and I was wondering, is there any guidance you can give me there?
Amazon is a great thing to focus on. The next 2 years on Amazon are going to be crazy. Like we're going to see a lot of demand.
It's just I'm a different person. So the way it has changed me has been monumental. And when you change someone, it changes not only the workplace, it changes job perspective, job attitude, confidence, family, and like you've always said, prosperity in all fronts, right?
It's not just about sports.
Correct.
It's not just about spirit. It's all of that plus career, plus health, plus everything.
Yeah. Now it's a lot easier said than done. There's no completion date, or there's not a situation where you think, yeah, this is perfectly handled. And that growth
The only
mentality
way you lose is to stop playing.
and that means
You can't win, but
Oh, okay,
the only
okay.
way to lose is
Got
to
it.
stop playing. Right?
yeah,
Like,
you got it.
that's the game of business.
Correct. So anyway, like I said, going back to my initial question, you are changing the world. MAG is changing the world now without you being part or the driver, because you have created a team, which I think that's part of your legacy.
People look out from the outside though. They look towards us and they're like, "Oh, it's the Stephen Pope show." And I always laugh when I hear this because I'm like, I'm one guy. You think I can lead a 540 person organization without a team, without an executive group? Like, Yeah, there's no board of directors. Don't get me wrong. There's no investors. Sure, but like, how would one dude lead 540 people? I mean, that's more than a church congregation right there, right? Like, I mean, even a bishop or a priest has got a whole set of leaders backing them up. So,
yeah. All right. So we got 5-year mark, 5-year Kodak moment. You already started your philanthropy. MAG is at 1,000, 2,000 employees. We've grown mid-market, so forth. All right. Now I'm going to challenge you a little bit more, and bear with me. All right.
Next, pulling the vision out of me. This is uncomfortable.
Now let's go a step further into the future. 20 years from now, and I'm going to ask you a different set of questions. June 18, 2044. All right. You're going to be 57 years old, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. 37 today.
What would you be most proud of?
If my children had surpassed me, would be amazing. Right now, that's a pretty high bar on a lot of fronts.
What does surpassing mean to you, Steven?
It means being change agents in propelling the work that I've started and taking it a step further. Right. It would be if some of my children, I hope, work at the companies that I've started and take them over. Right. And there's not very many successful family business handoffs. Right. And obviously at 57, I won't even be retired. I mean, I could be retired now if I wanted to. Right. Like, I've already hit the I win button in life, but like, that's not enough. It's just simply insufficient to me to just coast off into the rainforest or the beach or wherever. I feel so much pressure. I feel more pressure now than I did prior to doing all of this to change the world for a better place.
All right, let's talk a little bit about pressure. Is that self-inflicted pressure?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, so the last job I had before I started the agency, I was working for a lighting company. I was bored out of my mind. I was waiting for the company to catch up to me. I had 17 ideas in queue. We were working on 2 or 3 of them. You know, like the next 2 years were like just planned out. And I would go home for lunch. I would, play with my kids for a hot minute and then go straggle back to work and putt around. And I would do some side hustle consulting because I was bored out of my mind. Today, the second I started the agency 6.5 years ago, I created my own work. And there was a lesson here that I don't think people who haven't become an entrepreneur understand until they become one. Mm-hmm. And that is, you create your own work. So when you're the marketer, growth hacker, driver in these organizations, you create a lot of work for other people. And you're like, why can't you keep up? Like, come on, guys, let's go and get in the car. And it's crazy to think about how much I tried to push in these organizations and how much resistance I would get. I was blown away during my early career. I was like, this is ridiculous. This is so easy. Just get in the car, right? Let's go. Like, get on the train tracks. Let's head to Salt Lake City and go down to Tallahassee, Florida. And we got to go through Houston and we got to go up to Chicago to get down there, but it's going to be worth it. I promise. But nobody could see the vision. I had to figure out how to translate that vision over and over and over again. And even still, I wasn't an effective change agent. Like, I would have an impact, but I wouldn't be a change agent. Like this, and I'll give you an example. If you put your hand into a cup of water, right? Your hand goes in, you displace the water. But the second you pull your hand back out, what happens? The water goes back to where it was. And that's what it was like being a director of marketing, being a marketing manager early in my career. I would have an effect on the body of water, but the second I wasn't there anymore, went back to the way it was. Mm-hmm. Some of my work that I did to get, a website, 10 million unique visitors net gained year over year was undone. It was unraveled. They started to undo my work the second I left, which makes no sense. Why would you undo something that was so awesome, right? Because they didn't see the vision. They didn't think it was awesome like I did. So when we turn that over to MAG, I create my own work. So every day I get up and I'm thinking to myself, how else can I propel this forward? What, is it a cold call? Is it a video I shoot? Is it 7 employees I call? And every day I push myself more and more, because the absence of growth for my soul is death. And that's like the end. I have no idea how to be in an elevator on the way down. It would sicken me. I would just feel a gut punch, a gut wrench, and it would not work for me. I have to be in the elevator on the way up. So I'm always propelled to figure out how to click that next floor. How do we go up and up and up and up, right? Like, and maybe heaven is unreachable with this format. Maybe transcendence takes a whole different form than what I'm thinking. But I can tell you right now, every floor I go up, I feel better, and I feel like I'm growing, because the second we stabilize, the second it's like we're static, I start to feel hell's flames like catching my feet, and I'm like, oh, we gotta go, we gotta keep going.
All right, so let's talk about vision for a second here. I've called you very seldomly this year when I need your help. And what amazes me is that when I call you and I have a problem or an issue in my head that I haven't been able to figure out for days, I tell you, hey, Steven, what do you think about this? And you solve that in a second, right? Have you seen that capacity in yourself since you were a kid? Do you have that vision where you saw things that nobody else saw, and it would just give you anxiety that nobody else saw them?
I never have anxiety about anything.
All right.
I'll take that back like a tad, right? So when you and I were going cliff diving.
Deep breath. Okay, we can do this. All right, come on.
And I would go up, I would have no problem climbing the mountain and no problem getting right up to the edge. But the second I was right about to jump, I would hesitate. I'd have to re-talk myself into doing it, and then I would go. And I would go every single time. But like, that's the amount of anxiety, minimal, just enough defense to like, hey, is that safe? Yeah, it's safe. Okay, let's go. Right. And so I think defense is important for system building, because you have to have some sort of defensive mechanism, rule following, conformity as your system building, because without it, the systems that you pass off won't get followed through on, because the person who makes them has to understand how they would be followed. But throughout my life, 100%, I would come to conclusions rapidly about situations, and sometimes people would think it was rash. They'd be like, how are you sure you want to make that decision? I'm like, yeah, 100%, I'm ready. And there's a couple of frameworks that are involved here. One, I believe that if I take 10 decisions and let's say only 3 of them are accurate, let's say I only have a 30% accuracy rate, but I know if I take 10 decisions and I act on every single one of these in the course of a week and I get 3 wins, those 3 wins are well worth the net benefits of the 7 losses. Now, I honestly do think I have a much higher success rate than 3 out of 10. But even if I only had 3 out of 10, I would feel so confident in making those 10 decisions, because the action dictates the strategy, right? Like, just simply taking action puts me ahead of the next guy. And that's where I think a lot of people get stuck. Like the inventor who never goes to market, who never manufactures. I'm ahead of that dude, even if his invention cured cancer, right? He never went to market, so it doesn't matter. It's inconsequential. Just having an idea is meaningless. Having the idea come to fruition is where all of the hope and change mechanisms come from.
When did it click for you that you had that capacity, that gift of seeing things?
So when I was, between ages of 12 and 16, the church counselors, the school people that are around me, the teachers, they would always like stop me and be like, Steven, you've got something special here. And I'd be like, what do you mean? I don't understand. And they would say things like, no, seriously, you can see things that others cannot see. And so I knew from a young age, but it didn't like click for me that people couldn't see the ways that I saw things. I would treat other people how I wanted to be treated, and end up pissing off half the people around me, right? and that didn't make any sense to my brain. I'm like, I'm like super nice to you, and I'm trying to help you, and they're like, I don't want your help. Like, what you're trying to do is terrifying. And I didn't understand that. That didn't make sense to me, because I thought everybody else would want the same things. They don't. Many people are content in their own cocoon. Many people want to go at their own pace. They're not, they don't have that insane high drive like I do. I was a chess player on the national circuit. I played in the US Open and won my division. I've played in many national chess tournaments. I did debate in college on scholarship. I beat Harvard's B team. So articulation, education, and to be able to ruminate and think have always come second nature to me. Every morning I get up out of my bed, I have a first idea of the day. And I always act on my first idea of the day without fail. I feel like it's prophetic in a way. Like I feel like it was a gift from God. And I explain this to other people and they're like, what do you mean you have a first thought of the day? Like, what is that? And I'm like, no, seriously, I immediately wake up and I immediately am programmed to go start working on that first thought. That's a foreign concept to most people. Like, I got to get my coffee first. They'll say that. I don't drink coffee. They'll be like, I got to warm up. I got to drink my coffee. I got to do X, Y, and Z before I even want to talk to somebody. And for me, it's like, whether it's 11:30 at night or 7 a.m. in the morning, my brain is thinking. My wife wants to have a serious conversation, and I like, while she's talking to me, I have to like distract myself so I don't interrupt her, right? Like, you know, playing on my phone or whatever. And some would be like, that's disrespectful. And I'm like, I've been doing that since I was a kid. My father would come down to my bedroom, want us to have a serious father-son talk, and I'd start cleaning my room, and he's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I can't think unless I'm acting with my hands right now, because, you know, listening to them talk for 60 seconds at a time, and I've got 17 ideas by the time he's done finishing. Shutting off the brain, very difficult for me.
So there's, you know, Elon Musk just wrote, somebody wrote, Walter Isaacson wrote the autobiography, right?
I just finished that a couple months ago.
There's a quote there or a soundbite that says that Elon Musk's mind can be a storm, and that it's not always fun to be in that mind. Is that a burden for you? Can it become a burden for you sometimes, or?
There is probably no person in this world that I look more up to from a intellectual standpoint, not from any other standpoint, but just intellectual than Elon Musk. I share a lot of his high drive. I share a lot of his system building, but I don't respect his family outcomes, right? He's got kids with 3+ women. He doesn't have it together, right? On that front, spiritually, he doesn't have it together. I also think some of his worldviews come to the wrong conclusions, but I respect the hell out of what he's accomplished, right? He already has that 1,000-year legacy. If he died today, he would have a 1,000-year legacy. Like he's the Tesla of our age. So I have a lot of respect for that, but I want to be a less crazy version of him. I want to be somebody that's prosperous in all ways, right? And so I don't have the same mental storms that Elon does. Like there's stories in his books where he has to lie on the floor and be like, what's the point? I don't want to go on. I do not have that. I feel like there's so much work I have to get done that I don't have any room for excuse. And I understand where he's coming from. Like deep down inside, I understand that like when you've hit the I win button, and there's like, what else can Elon do before he goes? He could ship us off to Mars. He could create the next power. He could expand his satellites so that every person in the world had internet 24/7 at a gigabyte speed. These are things he could do, but he's already got them all in motion, right? And he runs, I don't know, 7 companies as CEO or something crazy like that. Most people realize the Tesla and the X, you know, Twitter and whatever, but they don't realize that there's the Boring Company and other properties that he's got his hands in.
Yep.
So I don't really know where I'm going with that assessment, other than to say that it's difficult to pair or look up or compare, right? So I don't have anybody in my network right now that is ahead of me, and that I find that uncomfortable too, because it's significantly easier to mimic or to follow suit, to coattail somebody that's successful, than it is to go like trailblaze your own path. And it can be, you know, a lot of people talk about like being lonely at the top. It is. It's very lonely, because a lot of the missions I've got in motion, I have people working on. So I can't go pull them onto my new missions. I got to go find new people.
Yep.
That's very difficult to balance. right? It's been one of my biggest frustrations trying to build other properties while MAG is the golden goose. And the golden goose is great, but I also want to go get a donkey and a cow and the rest of the farm. So it's a struggle.
So
I don't know what people are going to take away listening to this. It's just like, this is like the ramblings or rantings of Stephen Pope, I guess, in a way. But like, I guess I'm being vulnerable, which is why it's so like all over the place.
So I will say something. Elon Musk is a better dancer than you are, Steven. So that you
He's
can
got more practice, no question.
You have to catch up on that. All right.
We're gonna put the little spot of me trying to break dance on the Filipino dance floor right here.
No,
sure.
Please don't do that, guys. Don't do that. All right, so we got 2 Kodak moments done. Last one, June 18, 2064. You're going to be 77 years old. How are you spending your time? What would be success for you at that age? What's your legacy? And did you win or not?
The only way to win is to keep playing. So
you're gonna keep working. 77 years old.
100%.
No ideas.
Like the way the work will evolve will be totally different, right? Obviously, I won't be CEO of some digital marketing agency, but like I'll be working on my grandchildren. I'll be like rotating my grandchildren to foreign countries with me, to go try some tropical fruit, right? There's still tropical fruit in the world I haven't consumed yet. There's still experiences out there. Maybe I'll get off the rock with Elon. Who knows? Maybe I'll get a little spot on his rocket. But I, have long believed I was going to go serve a mission for my church. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Some people know us as Mormons. And I long thought I was going to go serve a multi-year mission in a foreign country. But what I've learned is that the mission that I'm serving right now for MAG and those 540 jobs that I've already created is a higher purpose for me. And that was a weird conclusion that I came to 3 years ago. I had a hard time with that. But realistically, I can do more good here. And the people that I see pictures every single day from people that we've helped them build a house. We helped them buy a fridge for their parents who've never had a fridge in their entire lives. We've helped people go get their degrees. We've helped people build new skills. We have a person who failed as a brand manager, and we've moved them over to the IT team. And they've never been happier working in Excel files. Nobody ever would have given them that chance had we not extended that to them.
Yep.
Most people would have just cut ties and said, I'll go to the next employee. But I find investments in people that when you can polish a diamond in the rough, the payout for every party involved, me from a selfish standpoint, them from an investment standpoint, it is tremendous. Like that's an outcome that you cannot expect without an avatar moment, to take my hand and let's go cross the ocean together. So there's a lot of opportunities there. But like at age 77, I'll still be going. Maybe I won't be like leaving my house. Maybe I'll just be digitally still going. Maybe I'll be plugged into whatever World of Warcraft RPG is going and world building from a digital standpoint. But I'll be active beyond belief, digitally, if nothing else.
Got it. All right. You're 77 years old. What would be a regret for you at that age?
That I didn't achieve 1,000-year impact. Like to not be able to. If I exit this world having put my hand into the water and the water goes right back to where it was after I left, I would be devastated. It would be meaningless for me. Now, a lot of people could articulate like, hey, I got 5 kids, I'm making it to heaven, right? Like that for many people, that's enough. And there is nothing more important than setting up my family for that legacy, for that success. But if I create trust fund kids and they go do drugs, or one of them commits suicide, or one of them drives drunk and runs somebody over, like this would be representative of a massive failure for me. Like that would be some of the biggest regrets that I would have. So I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that all of my children make it through life with excellence, with prosperity. Now, obviously, they're all going to have their own struggles. They're all going to have their own challenges, but I'm going to teach them as much as I can to propel them, right? So some of my children are more compliant than others, right? And it's easier to make a bet on the compliant children, right? Like you think if they just follow what you say, they're more likely to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
So, some might think that. Others might say the ones that rebel are more likely to have a bigger change on the world. And I could buy some of those arguments too. So there's some pros and cons to how I raise my children, to what outcomes I can expect. And I don't know that the pressure I put on myself would be considered a blessing to my children. Some of them might find it to be a curse. You know, we see all those movie tropes where dad puts so much pressure on the children, they just explode,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or we see Succession, you know, the HBO series or whatever, Showtime, whatever
Yep.
it was. And every single child is a total F up. Like all of them are just totally messed up, right?
Yep.
Like that would be devastating in its own way for that to happen to me. Because if the business can't be handed down to the third generation, that's representative of me. That's my failure. That's not their failure. That's mine. And that's what extreme ownership is to me. Like I have to be able to build a system that outlives me. So how do I do that? I don't know. I don't have a great answer to that question today, but I think about it every day.
Gotcha. All right, cool. 2 questions more. What keeps you awake, Steven, that you haven't discussed today?
When I get a charge back from a customer, it feels like theft. And like I have a hard time with that because sometimes you do your best work for your worst clients, your worst customers. And so for others that are listening to this that run their own agency, you know what I'm talking about. For those that feel like Amazon steals from them, whether it's, you know, customer returns or the fees that they put on you, you understand as well. But like, I got to tell you that when you do some good things for a customer and they betray you, it takes me a solid 12 hours to get over it. Like I have to take myself off the email notifications. I have to delegate that to not even touch it. And it's very difficult, right? It's not about the money. It's about the betrayal, right? A second example would be like if I give my heart and soul to an employee and they betray, right? They go out and try and, you know, we have agreements in place that our employees aren't supposed to poach our clients or go start their own agencies and then try and borrow our employees, right? Because that's extremely common in the agency space. And we simply say, you can do whatever you want with the knowledge within some parameters that are, you know, congruent. Just don't screw us over, right? We're going to give you all these skills and we're going to teach you so you can do anything you want. But here is some basic decency things to not do. And for 6 years, I was immune to this. I didn't have any problems. But in the last 6 months, not so much, right? Like there has been a little bit more of a challenge on this topic. And I've had to go a little bit more scorched earth on some of those involved parties. And I don't like doing that. I prefer carrot. I look for the win-win with everybody because I don't think there is such a thing as a win-lose scenario. I think it's either win-win or lose-lose. I don't believe there is any middle ground to that concept.
Yep.
And so I explain this to the people that are involved. I'm like, look, guys, either this is a win-win or it's a lose-lose. There's no scenario where I will allow you to win and me to lose. It will not happen. And so those are the things that typically keep me up at night, is trying to let go of some of those losses because they're distractions. At the end of the day, they don't help me grow my company. They in fact recede it. I am playing defense instead of offense. So I don't like playing defense. I prefer to be completely on offense. When I play digital games like Overwatch, I almost always have the highest death ratio in the game. I still win more often than I lose. I still have a high score, but I die more than everybody else. It's weird to think about, right? Does that mean I'm a bad positional player? Not necessarily, right? I do it on purpose. I always get the maximum efficiency in the game that I possibly can. So I get the shots that other people wouldn't take. I go try and get onto the position or the board, if you will, the cargo, the map location, to try and get that extra shot in, that extra ability to get energy out of it. So I do that in business too, which means I have a higher death ratio, which means I have more losses than the average cat.
You know what? So it's very interesting that you've mentioned that analogy a few times today, because it seems to me that even from your childhood, traffic and conversion were ingrained in your way of thinking. The more decisions I make, the more success rate I have, but I need more traffic to be more successful.
And as I have preached for many years, traffic is more important than conversion. And Amazon's already solved conversion at 10% averages. So it's 10 times easier to double your traffic than it is to double your conversion. So yes, I believe that. More shots at bat. Yeah. When I was in junior high, I would be on the baseball team, and I would never be the best player when the season started. Never. But I would get the award for most improved player every single year. That doesn't mean I ended the best either. It just means I improved the most.
Yeah.
That to me is growth. And so I'll go with, work buddies, and we'll do a random sporting event, whether it's top golf or bowling or shooting. And I will surprise the people around me. It's like, how is it possible that you are good at this, and this? And that's not me trying to boast. It's because I always find a way to improve. No matter what I touch, I always try and become a better dad. I always try and become a better boss. I always try and be a better husband, a better person in this world. And so I type 123 words per minute. I can shoot 50-yard shot. I can swim. I can dive. I can do all of these things. I can play baseball. I can play basketball. That doesn't mean I'll be the first person picked on the team. But what it does mean is that I give it my every ounce of fiber to succeed in everything I touch 24/7, all of it. I think that's an incredible way to live life.
Good. Well, I'll just have a small game we're going to play, and then I'll let you go. All right.
All right.
This is going to be a one-word fire round. So I'm going to say something, and you say the first word that comes to your mind. All right.
On it.
Ready? All right. Mag.
Happiness.
Amazon.
Troubling.
Family.
Eternity.
Growth.
Always.
Life.
Forever.
Death.
Never.
Okay, this one you're going to love. Taxes.
Can I do this? Can I do this to the government?
It's your show. All right. Fun.
24/7.
There we go. Emily.
Mother.
All right. God.
Elohim.
And last one, serendipity.
Circumstantial.
All right. Okay, cool. It was really nice talking to you, Steven. Thank you for your time.
Well, I appreciate those that are listening. This is a very unique podcast that we did today. I look forward to hearing scathing reviews in the comments. So leave those below. Tell me the weirdest thing I said today. I know it'll be hard to choose. My name is Stephen Pope. I'm the founder of My Amazon Guy. Today I was interviewed by Francisco Valadez down in Mexico, and he's our VP of Brand Management. Thanks for watching.